Today we are sharing 4 more uncommon tips for your next networking event. If you missed it last episode, we discussed 4 tips from the book How to Talk to Anyone. And if you missed that episode, make sure that you check it out after this one. But today we are going to be sharing 4 tips from other areas. So grab your cup of tea and let's dive into it. We can often hear so much about the importance of networking, especially when it comes to building your professional personal brand. There's less focus on what to actually do when you are at a networking event or what to do after in order to be able to create more lasting relationships or to be able to make a more favorable impression on your potential new contacts. So let's dive into tip number 1. Tip number 1 is to take a selfie with your new contact. This was one of my favorite gems from the book You Are the Brand by personal branding guru Mike Kim. He suggests to take a selfie when you meet someone at the event, and then that gives you an opening to be able to share that with them and then to continue that conversation in a slightly more meaningful way than had you just maybe exchanged numbers or just connected with each other on LinkedIn. It gives you more of a deeper connection and a chance to essentially really just slide into their DMs or to start a message conversation with them. I think when we go to networking events, we place so much focus on making sure that we get other people's contact details and that we connect with them on LinkedIn. But we don't actually go that extra step to make it a more engaging conversation and to think about how we'll actually approach that relationship after. And for me, this kind of just reminds me of what you would normally do in a social setting. Anyway, you would likely meet someone that you connect with and you might be discussing a particular thing and you send each other links or photos to wherever it is that you're discussing, or you've taken a photo and you share it with that person. So it's not that unrealistic to be able to apply that to the professional sphere, especially when with things like LinkedIn now, when people do attend networking events, they are looking to share that experience on LinkedIn. And it's not uncommon for people to want to take photos at these events with people to have that event look a little bit more people orientated. So it's not going to seem strange to people when you are engaged in a conversation, and you probably want to do this when you're having, more of a meaningful conversation with someone as opposed to just jumping straight into the selfie request a couple of minutes in. But it's not going to seem strange to them because they're probably used to that. They know that when they go back to their own LinkedIn, they'll see a lot of photos of people from events. So this is something that you can try. It'll give you a chance to slip into their DMs in LinkedIn, much like maybe dating outside of the professional space, and to continue that conversation. Now, tip number 2 is to keep a birthday book. This was one of the gems from the absolute classic How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And this book was written in the 1930s, so keep in mind that it is reminiscent of that time. So you may not need to keep an actual birthday book, like a physical birthday book anymore, but what you might do is keep birthdays in your phone. Maybe you have a list in your phone that you can easily refer to every morning. Maybe you have all of your birthdays on your calendar at work so that you can make sure that you're not missing any important birthdays. The reason why this can be really powerful is that it gives you an opportunity to connect with people on the day that is most special to them. It's a way to show that you appreciate them. It's a way to show that you have taken an interest in them and you have remembered them on their special day. And so he made a real point to make sure that when he met someone, that he found the opportunity to be able to find out what their birthday was and actually made a note of that so that he could follow up with them on their special occasion. As I'm thinking about this, I know that birthdays coming up in a professional setting can be a little bit tricky, but what I have found lately in particular is that people talk about star signs a lot. Maybe that is a potential opening whenever star signs or personalities or things like that come up, to actually make sure that you remember what it is that that person said that their birthday is, because usually they will tell you what their birthday is in the context of telling you what their star sign is. So that could actually actually be a way for birthdays to come up in a more organic way. Tip number 3 is to make it your mission to remember people's names. Now, we're going to be sticking with the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, because this is another little gem in there as well. Carnegie really highlights that a name to a person is the sweetest sound to them. It is the sweetest sound to hear their own name. That is what they will resonate with the most. And we've all been there when you go to an event and there is all of the chaos of when you first turn up and there's lots of introductions. It is really easy to forget people's names. I know that I can be and have been terrible at this, but after rereading this book recently, I've really tried to make an effort to make sure that I am trying to be as present in those moments as possible to remember people's names. And it can be tricky when there are so many of them being said. So when I actually hear someone's name, I always make a point to repeat it back to them. And if I have actually genuinely forgotten what their name is in those initial minutes, I will ask them almost immediately just to repeat what that name is again, because I would rather do that and make the effort and show that I am genuinely interested than to have forgotten their name and then to spend the rest of the event trying to work around not actually remembering their name. And not every event has name tags and makes it that easy. And when I talk about networking events, this isn't always in the most formal setting. This could apply to other things too. So when you do remember that person's name, make an effort to actually integrate that into the conversation. When I have met people that do this really well, I can actually feel the impact that it has on me, that they have taken the time to say things with my name on the end, to actually feel like even though we haven't met previously, that they have already connected with me on a more personal level. So try to not only remember people's names, but use that in the conversation as well. In the book, Carnegie says, remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. And when you hear tips like this, it's really easy to start to feel that maybe some of these things can feel insincere or manipulative. And what I really want to highlight is that it's not about manipulating people. It's about actually trying to build more genuine relationships. And I think Carnegie sums this up perfectly in the book when he says, the principles taught in this book will work only when they come from the heart. I am not advocating for a bag of tricks. I am talking about a new way of life. So this is really about genuinely being interested in other people, about being interested in establishing relationships that feel good for that person as well. And my tip number 4 is to add value to their life. This is my own personal tip that sort of just organically I discovered can work really well. And this is about when you meet someone, and this could even be one of your existing contacts, so it doesn't necessarily need to always be a new contact. But when you meet someone, actually pay attention to what it is that they are talking about and what it is that they might actually be seeking more information on or help with, or what their goals are. For example, is there a particular project that they are working on? Or is there something that they mentioned that they would like to do, but they're not too familiar with maybe a aspect of a technology that is required for it? And those could be things that you are actually knowledgeable in, or that you have access to information on that you could share with that person. So now what I do is that when I leave a conversation with someone, I really try and pay attention to what their priorities are. What is it that they are working on? What's important to them? And if I have, for example, a link to a software program that I know could be useful for them, or if I know a book that is going to be a really great recommendation for a topic that they are particularly interested in, then I can also send that to them too. So this is where I try and make this a chance to genuinely add value to that person, to try and give them something that is going to help them excel in whatever it is that they are trying to do, without actually thinking about the benefit that it has on me, because most of the time it has nothing to do with anything that I am doing. So this isn't an opening for you to be able to sell your services to that person for something that you think that they could potentially use. This is genuinely about things that are entirely focused on them. If you want more tips for your next networking event, then check out my previous episode on this topic. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.